Discipline is the bridge between your dreams and your reality. And if that bridge is weak, your future will never arrive. It doesn't matter how big your plans are, how beautiful your goals look on paper, or how many people you impress with your talk. If discipline is missing, everything collapses the moment real life shows up. Discipline is not just a word. It is the iron spine of success. It is the quiet soldier behind every legend. It is the invisible thread, tying desire to outcome, hunger to harvest, and pain to power. And if you can learn to master it, not once, not temporarily, but every single day, your life will transform in ways you can barely imagine. So let me ask you something. How much longer will you let emotion decide your actions? How many more mornings will you ignore your commitments? Just because your feelings weren't in the mood. Because every time you choose comfort over courage, convenience over commitment, you're not just wasting a moment, you are sabotaging your destiny. We're not here to play small, not here to stay mediocre, not here to keep reliving the same weak patterns, hoping life somehow gets easier. No, we are here to master ourselves, to build a mind so sharp it slices through doubt to create habits so strong. They don't just change our days, they change our character. You want to improve your life? Fix your discipline. You want to think like a millionaire, act like a leader, perform like a champion? Then you better get serious about how you wake up, how you speak to yourself, how you train your emotions, and how you conquer those invisible moments no one claps for. But everything depends on discipline is earned, not inherited. Doesn't care where you come from. It doesn't care what you've been through. It only responds to one thing: your decision to be greater than your excuses. Make no mistake, the world will tempt you every single day to drift, to scroll instead of focus, to quit instead of persist, to pretend instead of prepare. But every time you resist that temptation, every time you choose power over passivity, your will grows sharper, your identity strengthens, your confidence compounds. This is how discipline works. It multiplies not just in results, but in self-respect. And let me tell you, nothing feels better than living in alignment with your highest self. That is the real wealth. That is the deep calm, knowing that you are not a slave to impulse, but a master of intention. Now, discipline isn't loud. It doesn't scream. It doesn't boast. It whispers. It shows up quietly when you'd rather sleep. It nudges you toward your goals when your friends are wasting time. It reminds you this is who you said you'd be, and it holds you to it. Let's talk about that voice, the one inside you that knows what needs to be done. That voice doesn't lie. That voice is sacred, and your job is to protect it. Not with talk, not with dreams, but with decisions daily, relentlessly, courageously. Most people think discipline is punishment, but I'll tell you the truth. The real punishment is the regret of an undisciplined life. The pain of waking up 10 years from now and realizing you let your potential rust because you couldn't say no to short-term pleasure. Discipline is not restriction. Discipline is freedom, and the only people who fear it are the ones who've never tasted the dignity it gives. Because the moment you start doing what you said you'd do, especially when you don't feel like it, you step into a new version of yourself. The version that keeps promises, that earns respect, that builds momentum. And momentum is sacred. Once you get it, protect it like gold, because momentum, once broken, takes pain to rebuild. Discipline builds momentum. Momentum builds identity. Identity builds destiny. You want wealth? It starts with discipline. You want health? Discipline. Relationships? Discipline. Time? Freedom. You guessed it. Discipline. You don't need more motivation. You need more commitment. Motivation comes and goes, but commitment stays. It stays on cold mornings. It stays when you fail. It stays when no one is watching. And that's what separates the extraordinary from the average. Not talent, not luck, but consistent discipline when it's hardest to give. Every legend you admire had one thing in common. They built their life around systems, not moods. They didn't wait to feel like it. They built the habit until it didn't matter how they felt. They trained discipline like a muscle. And so must you. Now let me give it to you straight. There will be days you don't feel like showing up. There will be voices in your head begging you to take the easy way out. And on those days, remember this: the easy way is the enemy. The shortcut is the lie. Because while the shortcut may give you the illusion of progress, it robs you of the transformation earned only through discipline. Your character is not built on the days you win. It's built on the days you push through resistance. That's where the magic is, in the repetition, the boring grind, the invisible battles. Discipline is repetition in the presence of resistance. Write that down, remember it, tattoo it into your daily routine. Because there will come a moment, and it always comes, where you will be tempted to break your standards. You'll want to negotiate with your goals. Let me be clear. You don't negotiate with destiny. You rise to meet it. The undisciplined life is filled with drama, distraction, and delay. But the disciplined life is clean, focused, quiet, powerful. It doesn't need applause because it lives in purpose. And when you live in purpose, every day becomes a vote for who you are becoming. You are becoming someone unstoppable. Someone who trains not just the body, but the will. Someone who speaks with intention, walks with clarity, and acts with conviction. Someone who doesn't just set goals, but executes them. Someone who doesn't blame, but builds, who doesn't excuse, but endures discipline, is doing what needs to be done long after the mood you set it in has left. So decide right here, right now, that your life will be led by decisions, not by default. That you will show up, not just when it's convenient, but when it's required. That you will honor your standards more than your feelings. Because once you do that, you become dangerous, not to others, but to the old version of yourself. And that's the version we're here to bury. The lazy you, the reactive you, the one who waited, who wavered, who played small. Bury it. Every day you live with discipline. You rise from the ashes of who you were and step into who you're meant to be. This is just the beginning. And I promise you, if you build the discipline, the results will follow. But more than that, the self-respect will follow. And that's the real reward. Now let's go deeper. You are not born undisciplined. You were conditioned to settle, conditioned to react, conditioned to wait for inspiration, like it's some magical cloud that's going to float in and change everything. But let me tell you the truth. Inspiration is unreliable. Commitment isn't. And discipline is commitment in motion. The strongest people you admire, they weren't built in inspiration. They were built in repetition, in silence, in those lonely hours when no one clapped, when no one texted. Keep going when the world moved on and they chose to keep building. Anyway, you see, you become unstoppable. Not because you're fearless, but because you've trained yourself to act in spite of fear. And the tool you use to do that is discipline. Let me tell you something personal. There was a time when I thought I needed to feel right to act. I'd wait until I had the right energy, the right mood, the right music, the right morning. Days became weeks and weeks became excuses. And I woke up one day asking, what am I waiting for? That question changed everything. Because the truth is, the warrior doesn't wait. The builder doesn't wait. The disciplined mind doesn't beg for better weather. It builds the fire in the rain. So if you want to win in this life, really win, you have to learn how to suffer well, to sacrifice now, so you can rejoice later. And that, my friend, takes discipline. Do you know what discipline really is? It's love. It's self-respect in action. It's saying, I love my future enough to fight for it today. Discipline is not some cold robotic drill sergeant barking orders at your soul. It's the highest form of compassion because it saves you from the pain of regret. It saves you from mediocrity. It saves you from waking up decades from now and realizing you betrayed your own potential because comfort seduced you. And let me tell you, comfort is a liar. It disguises itself as peace, but it robs you of progress. It tells you you're fine when you're not. It whispers, just a little longer, while it tightens its grip on your ambition. Discipline is what breaks that grip. Now here's the deeper layer. Discipline isn't just about doing hard things. It's about becoming the kind of person who does hard things. It's not just about skipping junk food or waking up early. It's about identity, because every time you keep a promise to yourself, your identity shifts, your confidence expands, your self-trust compounds. That trust, that's the currency of transformation. You can't build a legacy if you don't trust yourself to follow through. You can't lead others if you're still breaking your own promises. And you can't create greatness on a foundation of inconsistency. So let's build something real, brick by brick, promise by promise, decision by decision. And here's what you need to understand. It doesn't have to be massive. It just has to be daily. Discipline doesn't need grand gestures. It needs small, consistent victories. Wake up on time. Move your body. Speak with purpose. Say no when your future depends on it. Say yes when your fear tells you to hide. You want to change your life. Stack those small victories. Stack them until they bury your excuses. Stack them until they become your normal. Discipline doesn't just change what you do, it changes what you tolerate. It elevates your standard. It draws a line in the sand and says, that version of me is no longer welcome. You want power. Raise your standards. You want peace. Raise your standards. You want to feel proud when you look in the mirror. Then stop betraying yourself for things that don't serve you. That's what discipline gives you. Integrity. The alignment of who you are, what you believe, and how you behave. And when those three match, you become unstoppable. Not loud, not flashy, just unshakable. That's what the world respects. That's what your family needs. That's what your legacy demands. A mind anchored in principle, not emotion. A life driven by purpose, not distraction. A soul that leads instead of follows. Now you're starting to feel it, aren't you? That pull. Deep knowing that you are made for more. That there's a greatness within you, not loud but waiting. Not desperate but ready, and all it needs is for you to show up. Not once every day, every morning you rise. You cast a vote for the future. So here's the challenge. Start stacking better votes. One disciplined choice can shift your trajectory. One bold no can save you years of recovery. One courageous yes can open doors you never thought you deserved. You're not weak, you're undisciplined, and there's a difference. Weakness is a decision. Power is also a decision. And that decision is made every morning when your alarm goes off. Every time you walk past the mirror. Every time you hear the voice in your head say, let's skip it today. You answer back, not this time. This is how it begins. Not with fireworks, but with fire inside a steady flame. A growing light. A commitment that doesn't depend on applause but on alignment. And hear me clearly. Your life doesn't get better by chance. It gets better by change. And change is born in discipline. Discipline is the gatekeeper of your dreams. It asks, are you serious? Only those who prove it through action are allowed to pass. So what do you want? Because the universe listens not to your wishes, but to your habits. What you do daily, that's your prayer. What you repeat, that's your truth. And what you tolerate, and that's your destiny. So let me ask again, are you serious? Because if you are, then act like it. Don't just read this and nod, move, rise. Build. There are no secrets, no shortcuts, no magical formulas. Just daily decisions to become a little better than yesterday. A little more focused, a little more intentional, a little more disciplined. You can't buy discipline. You can't fake it. You can't outsource it. It's forged in the fire. And that fire is your life right here, right now. Don't waste another day living on accident. Choose to live on purpose. Choose to live with discipline, because every great life, every powerful leader, every fulfilled soul was built on the back of boring, unglamorous, relentless discipline. And you, my friend, you are no different. Discipline doesn't shout. It doesn't perform for the crowd. It doesn't decorate itself with instant rewards or applause. No, it lives in the quiet, in the shadows. It's forged when the world is asleep, and you're still up doing the work. Still reading, still writing, still running, still building what no one else can see yet. Not even you fully, but you believe in it. And that belief turns into effort. That effort becomes routine. That routine becomes identity. And that's the shift most people never make. They want discipline to feel like hype. They want every day to feel like a TED Talk. They want dopamine and fireworks and music swelling in the background. But discipline doesn't work like that. Discipline is when you act without permission from your feelings. It's when you move forward, even when nothing in you is screaming. Yes, it's not motivation that changes a life. It's mastery. Mastery of self, mastery of thought, mastery of your reactions, your habits, your routines. Because let's face it, everyone wants to change their life, but few are willing to change their day. And yet your entire future is hiding inside your next 24 hours. So let me say this to you as clearly as I can. Discipline is not a decision you make once it is a decision. You remake every hour, every day, until it stops being a decision and becomes who you are. The disciplined man doesn't ask, do I feel like doing it today? He simply does it because it's part of him now. It's not a burden, it's a badge, a code, a way of life, and you can get there. You can become the person who doesn't need reminders, who doesn't flinch at sacrifice, who doesn't fold when pressure comes. Because discipline has become your default. And when discipline becomes your default, success becomes your rhythm. Let me break this down for you even further. Discipline is not rigid. It is not sterile. It is not about turning into some robot that denies joy. In fact, discipline creates more joy because you no longer feel ashamed of who you are. You walk with pride. You walk with structure, and structure is the hidden path to peace. You want peace, you want mental clarity, then create order, and the architect of order is disciplined. Without it, you're tossed around like a leaf in the wind, controlled by mood, opinion, emotion, fatigue, fear. But with discipline, you become the wind. You shape your world instead of reacting to it. That's what separates the leader from the follower. Not talent, not charisma, not IQ, but the ability to stick to a direction long enough to arrive. So what's your direction? Because if you're not clear on that, your discipline will fade. You can't aim for vague goals. Discipline needs a target. The archer needs a bullseye. And your bullseye must be defined, clear, burning, personal, not just, I want to be rich. No. Why? What would discipline buy you? What does a disciplined life unlock that your current one never will? Freedom, confidence, impact, legacy. You better get clear, because vague goals build vague discipline. Vague discipline leads nowhere. Let me be bold with you now. If you don't have discipline, you don't have freedom. You may think you're free because you have no rules, no schedules, no accountability, but that's not freedom. That's chaos. True freedom is earned, and it's earned through order, through constraint, through intelligent sacrifice, through the daily act of doing what needs to be done, especially when it's not fun. You see, children seek fun. Kings seek legacy children. Chase feelings. Warriors chase standards. And the only way to rise from child to king, from victim to warrior, is to train discipline like it's your duty. Because it is the undisciplined mind is a dangerous place to live. It feeds on fear, procrastination, envy, self-pity. It spirals, it crumbles. The disciplined mind, that's a fortress. It filters out what doesn't matter. It protects what does. It creates space for genius. And we need your genius. We need your mind sharp. We need your soul lit up. We need your daily habits rooted in discipline so that your gifts can rise. Not buried in guilt and distraction, but sharpened by structure. Do you hear me? The world is starving for disciplined minds. For people who don't just promise, but produce, for people who don't fold under pressure, but focus, for people who build when others binge, who rise when others rest, who live with urgency because they know that time isn't promised and purpose doesn't beg. And if you're still waiting for the perfect moment to get serious, it doesn't exist. Discipline doesn't wait for the weather to change. It brings its own storm. It moves forward anyway, so stop asking for more time. Start managing the time you already have. Ruthlessly, relentlessly, intelligently. Because discipline doesn't waste hours on things that don't matter. It cuts the fat, it eliminates noise, it gets to work. You want to be proud of yourself? Then give yourself a reason. Earn your own respect. And you earn that by being the kind of person who does what they say they'll do every single time. Not sometimes, every time, because let me remind you, how you do anything is how you do everything. The corners you cut in small areas, they bleed into the big ones. The lies you tell yourself about later, they turn into decades of delay. The promise you broke last night, that's still echoing in your self-image this morning. Discipline fixes all of that. It repairs the damage. It restores the trust. It rebuilds the identity. When you rebuild your identity, the world responds. You show up different. You speak with more conviction. You stand taller. You say no to what you used to settle for, and yes to what once intimidated you, because now you're not chasing results. You're aligned with them. You've become the kind of person who naturally attracts greatness because you've trained your foundation to withstand it. You're not overwhelmed. You're organized. You're not doubting. You're dialed in. You're not reacting. You're responding with discipline, with clarity, with vision, and that is what changes everything. Not one big day, not one grand speech, but daily disciplined choices that compound. You know what's rare in this world? A man who keeps his word. A woman who builds her life like it matters. A person who shows up every day. Not when it's easy, not when it's popular, but when it's hard, when it's cold, when it's lonely. When everything in them screams, take the day off, and they answer, no, this is who I am now. Discipline isn't about being the strongest. It's about being the most reliable, the most anchored, the most unshakable in a sea of chaos. Because in a world full of noise, a disciplined soul becomes a lighthouse. You want to be that lighthouse? Then it's time to make a shift so deep. It rewires who you are, not just what you do, but how you see yourself. This is the turning point. Discipline doesn't begin in the calendar. It begins in the mirror. Look at yourself and ask, Do I trust this person to carry out my mission? If the answer is no good, you're finally being honest, and now you build not by shaming yourself, not by wishing, by choosing every day to prove to yourself that this time you mean it. Because discipline is built in the gap between intention and action. That space between I should and I did. And the faster you close that gap, the stronger you become. Let's speak clearly. You are not lazy. You are undirected. You are not broken. You are distracted. You are not weak. You are living below your standard. And the soul can feel that gap. It aches. And that ache, that's your wake-up call. That's your conscience begging for structure. That's your future self whispering, please fight for me. Don't betray me again. And when you finally say yes to that voice and no to the excuses, something shifts. You don't just chase goals. You become the person worthy of achieving them. Because discipline is not just action. It's identity. Think about it. Who are you when no one's watching? Who are you at 5 a.m.? Who are you when you're exhausted? When it's raining? When your motivation is packed up and left for the week? Who you are in those moments is your truth. And that's where your power lives, in showing up. Even when nothing in you feels like it. You don't negotiate with the alarm clock. You don't bargain with laziness. You don't flirt with weakness. You show up, and with every rep, every journal entry, every yes to growth and no to comfort, your discipline becomes thicker than your doubt. But here's the key most miss. Discipline is not about perfection. It's about direction. It's not about never failing. It's about never quitting. If you fall, get back up cleaner. If you slip, return sharper. If you miss the mark, aim again with greater focus. Because discipline doesn't come from never messing up. It comes from refusing to stay messed up, from forgiving yourself, but not babying yourself. From learning fast, adjusting fast, moving forward faster. You want to develop world-class discipline? Then stop punishing yourself emotionally when you slip. That's ego. And ego has no place in discipline. Discipline is humble. It doesn't sulk. It recalibrates. It asks, what did I do wrong? What must I do different? Then it moves. And that movement, that course correction, is what sharpens your edge. You see, self-discipline is the daily vote that says, I choose power over comfort, vision over emotion, alignment over approval. And let me remind you, no one is coming to remind you. No one is showing up to save you. The world will not slow down for your healing. It will not pause while you get your life together. You either command yourself or the world will command you. And that is why discipline is the highest form of self-love. Because it says, I will not abandon myself today. You wouldn't let your child starve. You wouldn't let your best friend collapse. So why do you let your own standards die slowly from neglect? Revive them. Stand up today and declare war on your lesser self, on the weak habits, on the easy compromises, on the quiet decay of your greatness. No more drifting. No more tomorrows. No more betraying the part of you that knows what's possible. It's time to become ruthlessly consistent. That's what real discipline looks like. Not sexy, not glamorous, but powerful, predictable, solid. The kind of discipline that's so dependable, even your enemies trust you to succeed. The kind that turns one clean day into two clean days, into a week into a new lifestyle into a new legacy and legacy. That's what this is all about, because at the end of your life, you won't remember the comfort. You'll remember the courage. You won't smile over the extra sleep. You'll feel pride from the days you moved anyway. You won't tell your children stories about how you scrolled Instagram. You'll tell them how you built yourself. Discipline gives you stories worth telling. But more than that, discipline gives you a soul that respects itself. Stop outsourcing your potential to emotion. Stop hoping the wind will blow in your favor. Stop acting like you have time to waste. Because discipline, real discipline, isn't just about doing the work. It's about becoming the kind of person who cannot go to bed with regrets. It's about living in a way where your pillow becomes a throne, not a graveyard of what you should have done. And that is where life begins to change. Because when you're disciplined, the world feels it. Your posture changes. Your energy sharpens. Your voice deepens. People start treating you differently. Not because you're louder, but because you're locked in. You walk into a room and people can sense it. Not arrogance, not aggression. Just silent, unshakable certainty. That's what discipline gives you. Not just results, but presence, and presence changes everything. So today, not tomorrow, make the decision to stop trying and start training. Not for the crowd, not for the mirror, but for the man or woman you were meant to become. And train like your life depends on it. Because it does. You can live an easy life now and suffer later, or you can suffer now just a little and live free forever. The choice is yours right here, right now. No one else can decide for you. Not your parents, not your boss, not society. No one but you standing face to face with yourself in the mirror. You don't need anyone's permission to be disciplined. All you need is to make a vow and hold it at all costs. Because somewhere out there, another version of you is waiting. A version that no longer delays, no longer makes excuses, no longer trembles before discipline. A version that has stepped through fear and is living with strength, clarity, and purpose. That version is not distant. It is just on the other side of the mornings. You don't want to rise on the other side of the habits you resist, but must build on the other side of the pain you fear, but must endure. Discipline is your gateway to that version. It is the key that unlocks the door to the life you deserve. A life of mastery over yourself. A life where your dreams don't just exist in your mind, but walk beside you in every moment. And this moment right now is where you claim it. Not tomorrow, not next week, not after the perfect sign falls from the sky right now. Because the truth is this, the world does not owe you a better life. No one will hand it to you on a silver platter. You earn it with every choice, every sacrifice, every disciplined, honed action that sets you apart from the crowd. So rise. Rise with the fierce love for your future self. Rise with the unbreakable will to build your character. Brick by brick. Rise with the fire that only discipline can ignite. Because when you do, you don't just change your life. You become the architect of your destiny. You become the person who inspires others. You become the force that reshapes your family, your community, your world. Discipline is the birthright of every greatness. It is the sacred path walked by every leader, every hero, every visionary who dared to say, I will not settle. I will not quit. I will become now. It is your turn. Stand firm. Take control and become the disciplined force of nature. Born to be, because this life, your life waits for no one. And discipline will carry you forward when nothing else can.